'Twas the twilight of autumn, and all through the land all the pumpkins were tossed out, baked or canned. There was frost on the ground from the cold of deep night, and wherever you looked Christmas ads were in sight. Yarn was strewn all over the floor, and a new wreath was hung up on the door. To the middle-aged lady you ask, "What does it mean?"
It's Craftsmas time,
she replies, her eyes all agleam.
Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Melissa Robinson, but subscribers can call me Missy. In today's video, I'm going to be working on making some gifts for family this holiday season. I have a few ideas on things to make, but we'll see where the week takes us. I have a bunch of yarn that I rarely use, so I'm hoping to use a lot of that, and then maybe that'll free up a little space here in my studio. So, bundle up, get cozy, pick up a craft of your own, and we will get to it.
When I dumped out my bin of yarn, I found this sock, which was the first project I had made when I thrifted this loom set years ago. I never made a mate for it, but I thought it would be a great, cozy gift for the winter, a pair of thick, knit slipper socks. If you've never used one of these looms before, let me tell you they are very easy and quick. To begin a project, you will tie one end of your yarn around one portion of the loom, and then wrap the yarn around each peg all the way around the loom twice. Once you have 2 rows of yarn on the pegs, you just take the lower piece of yarn, and using this tool, you push the loop of yarn up and over the top loop. And then you just repeat that process until you start to see a thing taking shape. I know that knitting patterns are a thing, but I've never used one and I don't know how to use them. So when I made my sock, first I knit down until I had enough to make an ankle piece, and then I made a mark halfway around the loom. This is in preparation for making the heel portion of the sock. So what you're going to do is just knit halfway around the loom to that mark and go back and forth a couple of times. Then you will want to knit all the way around the loom at least once or twice in this process, or you end up with a gaping hole at the side of the heel. And because I was making a matching pair of socks, I needed to reference my first pair to make sure that I am using the same or close to the same number of stitches to fill out the heel portion of the sock. So I just counted the stitches that I had done previously. When I did the first sock, I just kind of kept going until I felt like I got a good L bend in my sock. And this is what the sock looks like once you get that heel shape in. You can see that it is bending and sitting askew on the loom. Once the heel is done, it's a straightforward knit in order to get the body of the foot done. Again, to make the socks match, I counted stitches to the toe, and then the toe is a little different. Similar to when you were knitting the heel, you begin with the toe to just knit halfway across the loom, and you do this for a while. You want to knit this portion until the length is approximately double the length of your toe, plus a little bit more so that it can wrap up and over the toe. The difference between the toe and the heel is that you do not go all the way around the loom, because you will end up just kind of sewing those pieces in place. Once the length of the toe is knit, you will go ahead and remove the loops very carefully so you don't lose the loops from one half of the loom, and then attach them over top of the stitches on the other half of your loom. Once all of your loops have been transferred, you can then knit off that lower loop on that side of the loom. To finish it off, I thread my yarn through a bodkin, or kind of like an extra large needle, and begin kind of sewing the seams together. Starting with that seam at the edge of the sock, you're going to have that large gape on the side of the toe. So you just sew that shut. Next, to get my project off of the loom, I threaded the needle through each loop as I took it off of the peg, and then sewed in between the loop just one kind of stitch. Once I have gone over and taken the entire project off of the loom, I can go ahead and sew up the other edge of that toe portion. I end by tying off my yarn and cutting off the excess, and the sock is all done. On this day, I started out by knitting a simple, straightforward beanie hat, which is the most common project that is done on these knitting looms. If you're watching this and a beanie wasn't the first thing you ever knit on one of these looms, let me know what it was that you did knit for your first project on these looms. I would be curious to know. But it is at this point in the video that we come to the end of our peaceful knitting content. I was informed by my child that they would like to have a pinata for their birthday. So I'm going to need to pivot on Craftsmas and work on a Meowth hot air balloon pinata. Hopefully I can get it done quickly so that I can do some more crafts for presents onto that project. If this procedure looks somewhat familiar, maybe you're a cosplayer, or maybe you saw my first video where I made a haunter costume for my child. If you haven't seen it, may I suggest you go check it out? Essentially, I am just using this bowl to get a shape prepared so that I can have more specifically, a round hot air balloon type shape. All I needed here was to tape up a portion of this bowl so that I could get 1/8 of the bowl shape. Once I had my 1/8 of a bowl shape, all I needed to do was to trace that onto a piece of paper, and voila, I have a pattern piece. Now that I had my pattern piece, I could use it. I did so by tracing it onto a piece of cardboard 8 times, since it was 1/8 of the hot air balloon shape that I would be making. Now it's time to cut everything out with a sharp knife. I do this directly over my carpet because I don't have a large enough cutting mat and my carpet sucks. After everything is cut out, I go ahead and tape my edges together. This is not meant to be structural, just to keep everything in the correct shape. This step is structural. It's paper mache. I made a pinata for my other son this year, and it was very robust. It had to be cracked by the adults at the party. So this time I thought I would go light on the paper mache, which was actually a bad idea because then not all of the kids really had a chance to hit the pinata. So moral of the story, go heavier on the paper mache. If you're curious about the paper I'm using, it's just a newsprint paper that is blank that I got at the dollar store. You could also just use whatever newspaper you might have, but I had to do this quickly, so I wanted the light color to help hide any imperfections when I go ahead and cover it with the tissue paper. First thing the next morning, I added another layer of paper mache so that I could let it dry throughout the morning and be able to finish up the project in the evening. I think 2 layers would have been enough if I had added flour to my glue and water mixture. And because time is not a limitless resource, I made another hat while I waited for glue to dry. For this hat, I rolled up the brim, and this serves 2 functions. 1, it keeps your ears just a little bit warmer, and 2, it keeps the hat edge from rolling. After knitting a quick hat, the pinata is dry and ready to decorate. I went to several stores, but I was surprised that the only place I was able to find the correct color of cream tissue paper was at Walgreens. To begin, I fold the tissue paper over and then cut it into strips. I then cut little notches all along the edge of the paper. And repeat. I just did this until I had cut up the entire first package of tissue paper, and if that wasn't enough, then I had another package just in case. And I almost forgot, but before I can start decorating, I needed to attach the ears. To create those, I just went ahead and grabbed some scrap cardboard and drew out an ear shape with a little bit of a curve to the base, and I also wanted to have a little extra space at the bottom of the ear that I could then use when I go to attach it to the rest of the pinata. With both ears cut out, I then went ahead and cut little notches into the base of the ear. I bent those notches alternating backward and forward, and then applied glue to them and glued them onto the body. I glued the shape onto the shape. With the ears in place, I'm ready to start covering the entire thing in tissue paper that I had already cut up. I started at the bottom, which gave it a little bit of a neck beard, and then worked my way up. In order to ensure there's no gapping and everything is evenly placed, it's best to work all the way around the project. This is not what you see me doing here. I'm working on the front side first and then the back, and I realized later that I should have just been working all the way around the whole time. It turned out fine, it just would have been more perfect. And this cat is covered. And also the kids are in bed and I'm in my PJs. But this is the part where it comes to life, adding details such as eyes, ears, mouth. Just a finishing touch, and we're ready for the reveal.
things up, literally, because these are Christmas presents, starting with these socks. This sock, I knit it a little too loose when you compare the two of them. The looser one is notably more square of the toe. And then of course I made the hats. I did a pearl and I don't know what the other stitch is called, kind of thing to the bottom brim of the hat, which I kind of wish I didn't do because I ended up rolling the brim anyways. This green one I felt turned out fairly well. I decided not to go through the effort of doing the pearl stitch because I knew I was gonna roll up the brim. It is kind of shiny, which makes it nice and festive for winter time. That's it for the gifts. Now for an assessment of the pinata.
Oops, I seem to have lost that footage. Oh well.
All right, well that pretty much wraps everything up. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. And if you would like to subscribe, please subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Mwah!